Welcome to Module 8 of Basketball Officials Training. This should be a pretty quick module. We'll be going over inbounding the ball as well as switching procedures. But first, we'll look at lines of responsibility. So these are the outer lines of the court that each official is responsible for. So the lead official that's on the baseline is only responsible for that baseline and inbounds versus out of bounds calls on the baseline. If they are looking at a primary and the ball is in their primary, they may need some help on the opposite side of the court. So that'll typically be the center that is on the opposite side of the court. So they may need to help out with some baseline calls. So if we see the ball go out of bounds, we can go ahead and blow our whistle and put our arm up. And then as a lead, if you're not sure of who it was off, you can look to your center to see what their call is. For the trail only has his or her sideline that's on their side, and they also have the mid-court line. So they're responsible for obviously the 10-second counts in the backcourt and stuff like that. But also, once the ball gets into the front court, they're responsible for backcourt violations as well. The center will only have their sideline on that side. They won't be responsible for anything in the backcourt, but they may help out, like I said, with the lead on the baseline a little bit. So here we see a graphic. The trail has the mid-court line there, as well as their far sideline. And then the center only has that sideline right there. It might help out a little bit on the baseline. And then the lead only will ever be responsible for the baseline calls there. When the ball does go out of bounds or when there is a foul called, we use this little graphic here as to decide where we're going to put the ball back into play. So you can remember this as sort of like a triangle theory. So that triangle, that blue space there, if there is a foul in that space or the ball goes out of bounds on the baseline, we're going to put the ball inbounds on the baseline. So if somebody fouls in the paint, it's always going to be put in on the baseline. That little red part that says no designated spot, that essentially means that we will never allow a team to throw in the ball from directly underneath the basket. If the ball goes out of bounds directly underneath or the foul is called directly underneath the basket, we're going to move them to one side or the other, whichever side it favors. So if it's a little bit to the left of the paint or a little bit to the right, we'll put the ball in bounds on that play. Anything outside of that blue triangle, fouls or out of bounds calls, we're going to use a sideline throw-in. So we're just going to put it into place directly where the foul was or directly where it went out of bounds. So the throwing procedures, the very first thing that you always need to remember to do is look to the scores table and see if there's any substitutions that need to come in. And at any time during a dead ball, we can allow substitutions to come in. Make eye contact with your partners and make sure that both of your partners are in good position and they're ready to go before you administer the throw-in. We're always going to have two people on the inbounding side, so it'll likely be, since they're on the same side, it'll be the lead and the trail that'll be on that side of the court. We don't want to use unnecessary whistles when we're administering throw-ins. So the only time that we're going to blow our whistle is immediately following a timeout or an intermission. So after halftime or after somebody calls a timeout, then we'll blow the whistle. But other than that, we don't need to blow our whistle every time. We can just go ahead, make sure our officials are ready, and either hand the ball or bounce the ball to the team and let them throw it in. The only time that we'll hand the ball to the player is if it's on the baseline. So it'll be the lead administering the throw-in. They can go ahead, hand the ball to them, take a few steps back, and officiate from there. Anytime it's on the sideline, then we're going to go ahead and bounce the ball, and then we're going to take our 3 to 4 steps away. You can tell the player to hold their spot as well, since they're not allowed to move outside of that 3 feet area. And so bounce it to them and allow them to throw. Hand on the baseline, bounce on the sideline. So we'll see there, the referee does a good job. It looks like the center in this case looks over, calls a substitute in, and then doesn't show it, but he takes a step back and he's going to end up bouncing that ball to the player. Yep, so because it's on the sideline, he takes a few steps back, bounces the ball to him, and then immediately starts his 5-second count. You see, because it's on the baseline, he hands it to the player. Another thing that I want you to watch, I'll play it again, is you'll see a little bit of a dead ball rotation go on here. So the lead starts off on the right side of the basket from our perspective. The ball goes out of bounds. He then moves to the other side of the basket to administer the throw-in. And then so the center, who was on the far side of the court initially, takes a few steps back and becomes a trail. On the near side, the official that stops the play for the substitution then takes a few steps forward, going from initially was a trail and then steps up into the center position. So watch that rotation as well. So this will be a little graphic of a ball staying in the front court. Ball goes out of bounds there. The lead comes over to administer the throw-in. The center then goes back. The trail takes a few steps forward, and then they switch positions. One becomes a trail, and the other becomes a center. On the opposite side here, ball stays in the front court, but on the sideline. Again, we want two officials inbounding on the same side, so the lead comes on over. The center takes a few steps back to become the trail. Trail takes a few steps forward, becomes a center, and then we're good to go. This is a bump and run, so essentially it's going to be something like a violation or a player control foul, and we're going to be going the other way. So the trail official, who is currently next to the ball, calls a violation. We're going to inbound the ball there. He then runs down the court, and he's going to become the lead, so he's not going to administer the throw-in. The old lead comes up and becomes a trail official, will be administering the throw-in, and the center just goes down and gets into good position for the next play. On the opposite side now, so the side where the center is, we have a travel or something of the sort there. They will run down the court. They'll become the lead official because we want two officials on the same side as a throw-in. The old lead comes over, becomes a trail. The old trail moves up and becomes a center. That'll be the end of this module. Go ahead and come back for module 9. We're going to have one quiz for both module 8 and 9. So you can go ahead and jump right into the next one.